The Australian Financial Review.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast. That is correct. Everybody in the firm has to have the same core set of ideals. Look after your people, and then your people will look after your customers.
Hi, I'm Sally Patton, editor of Boss from the Australian Financial Review, and welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss. A podcast about success and failure and everything in between. And along the way, we're hoping to get some great advice from our leaders. My guest today is Alex Pollak, the Chief Investment Officer of Loftus Peak. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well.
Thank you so much for coming in today. Now, Alex, as I said, you're the Chief Investment Officer of Loftus Peak, which is a global fund manager based in Sydney. Loftus Peak runs 3 funds as well as being an investment advisor to a number of large individual portfolios. You oversee a total of $1.2 billion of savings, and you are a big investor in US tech giants such as Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft and Netflix. And you're also a big investor in Eli Lilly, the American pharmaceuticals company, which is a big manufacturer of weight loss drugs similar to Ozempic. So have you always been fascinated by stocks and investing?
No, I have not always been fascinated by it, but I certainly became fascinated by it in my late 20s and early 30s because I realised that money controlled the way the world worked. And as soon as I realised that, I understood a whole lot of things and the world made sense to me.
Interesting. I'm sure we'll get to more of that in a bit. But we've only got 15 minutes, so I'm going to start the clock right now. And my first question is, what time do you get up in the morning? What happens? Are you an early coffee drinker?
No, on the coffee. We run a global mandate, which means that when it's morning here, it's afternoon and evening in the US and in the UK as well. So I like to pick up the conference calls, any overnight podcasts, any news that's relevant. That's at the end of the US day. And so whenever I kind of plug into that, works for me. And then at the other end of the day, running from sort of 8 to midnight, is the pre-market of the US. And that tells me the futures and early movements in the markets generally and things to look out for over the course of our day.
So what does that mean for the time you get up and the time you go to bed?
It means it's entirely event-driven.
So does that mean that you're not a particularly early riser? You're getting up at 7 o'clock?
I'm not an early riser. I get up when I get up. This will all make sense momentarily because I walk 9 kilometres a day.
So when do you do your 9 kilometres of walking?
So I do it in the morning half and in the evening half. And the big unlock for me has been not to take that time and do it in a gym or do it when I'm not focused on business, but to use that time walking, listening to podcasts, listening to earnings calls, talking to clients, talking to my team, morning and afternoon. And so I get my walking in 2 batches. Effectively, it takes me the best part of an hour and a half or 2 hours to do the lot, but it's not carved out of my day. The unlock is to use the time that you would exercise as effective work time, and I make those 2 walks last about an hour and a quarter each, an hour to an hour and a quarter each. I go the long way intentionally because I need to get what I need to get done on those times.
Very efficient use of your exercise time. I love that. Okay, Alex, can you tell me about a pivotal moment in your career, something that you worked on, a project, a promotion you were given that changed the path of what you were doing?
So I used to work at Macquarie Bank. The big shift in my career came in 99, 2000, 2001, and it came as a result of conversations with the people that started, the founders and executive team of Seek. the Bassett brothers and Matt Rockman. So this was a kind of the beginning of build it once, sell it many times. And it was also the beginning of the understanding that in order to sell classified advertising around jobs, you didn't need to print it on the back of a newspaper. You could do it digitally. And the understanding that came out of doing that digitally was the big understanding of what disruption meant, because we run a disruption fund, what disruption meant and how it actually played specifically across the real-world business model of newspapers. So, as they say in the classics, that got me to thinking.
And you met the Bassetts through work, did you?
Yeah. Their intention was to float the company Seek. And with the team at Macquarie, we did that, brought it to the public markets, listed it. That went well. And it really helped me to understand it. It really made me think about the idea that, if you unbundled transactions or you unbundled business from the bits that were necessary and the bits that weren't, if you think about a retail transaction, for example, and you can think about Amazon, and books, etc., which is where it started, obviously, the unbundling of transactions into their component parts is the stuff of digital disruption.
So when you figured that out, did you then think I could go and set up a fund to invest in companies that were doing just that were disrupting and changing distribution models?
That was precisely what I thought. And it was precisely what I thought for a number of years while I was still at Macquarie Bank.
So you stewed on the idea for a bit and developed it.
And thought about it, very long and very hard until I finally left Macquarie Bank in 2011, had some time off, and I kind of hatched out the details of how this would look.
But what a great meeting you had with the Bassetts then in those early days.
Well, that was a career changer, right?
Yeah.
And then everything that followed, right, what happened with iPods and Apple and Google, everything that followed just clicked into place with respect to what all this meant. So actually when I started the fund in 2013, in the final stages before the fund started, I thought, well, honestly, I'm a bit late on all this. Then, the more I considered it, the more I thought, no, it's just got so much further to run. So
here you are.
Here I am.
Okay, my next question is, what is the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
The best piece of career advice I've ever been given was given by the father of a friend of mine many years ago who said, get focused and determined on something that you want to do and do that.
I don't flit around too much, stay the course and develop a skill.
Yes.
How old were you when you were given that advice?
20.
Did you take that seriously on board at university and throughout your time at Macquarie?
Very much so. But it was always a question of not knowing what it was that I wanted to do. The question is actually, what has failure taught me? And well, have you failed? And I've failed at a lot of things in my life.
Such as?
I failed to, become the chief executive of Macquarie Bank, for argument's sake. Not that I really wanted that, but I could have.
Lots of people failed to become the chief executive of Macquarie Bank.
But I could have, aimed higher, as it were, for example. And I left journalism, because I was a journalist going back, and I left journalism, again, not having achieved what I wanted to achieve. But each time I did those things, the failure caused me to winnow down and to think more closely and in a more focused manner about what it was that I actually wanted to do. The more I understood about the way the money worked, the more I understood the way the world worked, and the more I was able to anticipate how things would roll next.
So in fact, you needed both those things.
Yeah.
To stay the course and to fail.
I needed to fail because it taught me the things that I shouldn't focus on. And that was actually very, very important. I also needed to fail because I needed to understand that there wasn't an infinite amount of capital available to me when I started the business. And so I needed to be very focused and very clear-eyed about what I needed to achieve and when in order for the business to work.
On that note, we are going to take a short break, but don't go away. We're going to come back very shortly and open our chatterbox. I'll see you in a minute.
I'll be there.
Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Alex Pollak, the Chief Investment Officer of Loftus Peak. Now, Alex, Here is our lovely chatterbox. Inside there are about 15 questions. I'm going to ask you to have a bit of a rummage around, pick out them one by one, and we'll have a bit more Q&A. Let's go. Thank you. Do you have an early memory of using computers or technology that made you excited about the future?
I have a very early memory of technology changing my life, and it was when I first came to work as a journalist at the Sydney Morning Herald. I'm a kid that had really bad handwriting, terrible handwriting.
Right.
Half the time I couldn't read my own notes. It was that bad.
Wow, that is bad.
That's bad. I came to work at Fairfax when they had just introduced the Coyote terminals.
And what were they?
Word processing units. And so, you could send emails, effectively messages, to people around the place. And a sub-editor there, whose name was George, lovely man, I can't remember his last name, I said to him, oh God, I love typing on these things because it just comes out. If I want to delete something, I don't have to cross it out and retype it and put white out on it and stuff like that. And he said to me, and this was a fabulous sort of learning from him, he said, the thing about the terminal is it immediately imparts the dignity of type on your unstructured thoughts and your unstructured handwriting. And that is exactly what it did. It enabled me to write finished pieces, which I could never do with the typewriter because I'd have to continually be crossing out and, changing things, etc. Here, with a word processor, at
you could
Fairfax,
change around paragraphs and change words.
I could edit, delete, save, repeat, restructure. That was a fabulous moment for me because it unlocked my brain. It extended my ability to think in long chain logic.
Right, okay. Have another fish in the box. Good fishing. When and where do you have your best ideas?
I have my best ideas in conversations with people, unstructured conversations with people.
Do you need to be in the office to have those unstructured conversations, or can that also be done if you're working from anywhere?
No. The things that come out of unstructured conversations equally happen on phones. They happen all the time, either with my team or with my wife or with some random guy, sometimes a taxi driver. I only get one good idea a year.
And that idea is an investment idea?
Yes, it's always about the business, but really, really good ideas, just, one a year.
What has been, say, one or two of the good ideas you've had since setting up the business?
We looked at what was happening in machine learning as early as 2015 and 2016. We first invested in Nvidia in 2016. It was in 2015, 2016 that we realised if business generally is what is being transacted, then machine learning is the how of the way business is implemented.
So seeing in 2016 just what Nvidia was doing and could do, that was a pretty good idea for that year.
That was the idea for that year. And then we've pretty much constantly been an investor ever since.
Remind me how much of Nvidia shares risen between 2016 and now?
They were 75 cents, I think, and now they're $180. So
that'll do it.
That will do it.
Have another fish in the box. Who is the best CEO in the world right now?
Satya Nadella.
Now, he's a CEO of Microsoft.
He is.
Why is he the best CEO in the world?
Because he took a company that was basically a Windows company and disrupted his own business model and sort of made those products, as it were, subordinate to the thing that he was building, which was a cloud enterprise-focused business with a very significant focus on services relative to products, and added to that services layer a business that's now, I think, approximately 4 or 5 or 6 times the size of what was the services business then. I just did these numbers a couple of days ago. So he disrupted a big company himself and brought everybody along. He wrote a book 10 years ago now. The book is called, and I think this says it all, Hit, Refresh.
Right.
Those two words, I think, beautifully sum up what he was doing to Microsoft, refreshing the hits and hitting refresh.
In that case, we should all go read Hit, Refresh.
Yes.
That's good advice. Okay, have another fish in the box. To do your role, work centrism, like a real focus on work, must be one of your personal values. Is that the case, A? And B, are there other core values that really assist you in what you do?
So everything is about culture. And it wasn't me that said this, but the term is culture eats strategy for breakfast. That is correct. The culture within the organisation, and I learnt this from Macquarie Bank under Alan Moss, it's quite simple. Everybody in the firm has to have the same core set of ideals. And the Macquarie ones were always think long term, always effectively be truthful. I'm not sure that everybody did that, but that was the aim. And a whole bunch of other ones beside. What I learned from working under Alan Moss and thinking about how that worked was that it was the most important thing. It was the most important thing because the moment you tell a lie to your people, you license them to lie to their people. And the moment you tell a lie to them, you license them to tell a lie to investors. Those things are critical. You cannot build an ethical funds management business without having people who are also custodians of those ethics. They are not going to be custodians unless they see that you have those ethics and that is the way you behave. I'm not going to say that I've always had those ethics. If you go back far enough in my life, I don't think I did have those ethics. But I learned as I got older that that was actually what mattered most. And that is where I am now.
So I guess, in other words, that's a way of saying look after your customers.
Look after your people, and then your people will look after your customers. And don't shortchange people.
Yeah.
Anyone. Just don't.
That's a great piece of life advice.
It is.
On that note, Alex, thank you so much. You have passed the Chatterbox section. I've now got one more question before I let you go, and that is, if for whatever reason you weren't the Chief Investment Officer of Loftus Peak, what would you be doing?
I can't imagine what I would do if I was not doing this. I think I'm probably broadly unemployable, but not for any job that I would care to do. So I guess I'd be retired.
Would you learn to play the piano or the guitar or a language?
No, I don't have practical skills. I can't really do anything other than this.
Okay, looks like you're stuck with this job for a long time then. On that note, your time is up. Alex, thank you so much for allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and you want to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patton, produced and edited by Mandy Coulin. Head of audio is Alex Gao, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini.
The Australian Financial Review.